A lot of people say in Rise of Kingdoms that you should be focusing on as many different troops as you can. I personally think if you're really early game, you shouldn't be listening to that advice. I'm going to give you my reasoning behind this and why I personally think you should be focusing on one troop type really early game. I'm going to go over everything I know about the early game, everything I experienced focusing on one troop, and what you should be doing to maximize your value with that one troop. Now, let's just start off with what are the different troops. There are 3 main troop types, especially if you're early game. First, you've got your infantry units. Your infantry are usually your more tanky but slower troops. They don't deal the highest amount of skill damage, but they deal quite a lot of normal attack damage, in most situations. They are often fairly slow, but they can be fast with some commanders. Your cavalry are more of your hit and run troops. They're kind of squishy compared to some other troops. They aren't the best at dealing skill damage, however this is changing currently. And they don't often provide a major debuff, but they're very fast and they deal a fair amount of damage. Archers are your skill damaging and usually debuffing troops. They're fairly powerful as well, just like all 3 troop types. All 3 troop types have something good about them and something bad about them. Your archers mainly focus on skill damage and they're just faster than infantry but slower than cavalry. Now, if we discuss which troops beat which, in most situations, infantry beat cavalry, cavalry beat archers, and archers beat infantry. That's how it's worked since the start of the game, and I don't think that's going to change. One thing to discuss, siege units are really only for gathering. They have tried to make a march for them, but I don't think they're worth focusing yet, and we should look more into the future and see where that goes before I start recommending people to focus siege. Now, you really have to decide what type of playstyle you like the most when you pick your troops, especially early game, because this is what's going to matter the most. If you like to be a bit more tanky, a bit more upfront with your opponents, then definitely go with infantry. If you like to run around, be a bit more sneaky, even though you can be upfront with your opponents, cavalry is your troops. If you like to deal high damage and kind of be retreating and playing a bit more tactical, then archers are your troops. That's my personal opinion there. Now, we can just start off with why I prefer going for one troop really early game. The most easy version is I really like the technology of focusing one troop. You can see here that on your technology trees, there are a lot of different types of technology. I've got archer attack, I've got infantry attack, cavalry attack, I've even got siege attack. Now you can see these are all different technology, roads or trees that lead into different things, that lead into more specialized technology. So if you're not focusing on one troop, I'm going to presume what most players are doing is they're working on these evenly, especially early game. That's probably, in my opinion, the worst mistake you could make. If you know you're going to focus on one troop, which is what I'm recommending in this video, you will be focusing down really a lot on these more troop specialized technologies. Like, let's say you got your Boudica arrows to about level 8 before KVK. However, for the same amount of resources and speed ups, you could get all your other technologies to about level 4. Here's the thing, having level 4 on all your technologies will give you 4% of stats. Having level 8 on your one technology that you're going to focus gives you 11% of stats for your one troop that you're focusing. So that's already a major thing that you're going to have above most players. Most players won't be focusing heavily on one troop. They're going to be mixing and matching the technology, whatever they feel like they need more of, which isn't the worst idea, but you're going to end up beating them because you focus down on your one troop and you've nailed that troop. You become a master of that troop. The way Rise of Kingdoms works is quality over quantity in almost every single situation. If you want to be a powerful free-to-play player on the open field, instead of going for 5 different troops, you'll just go for one march. One march that's going to trade a lot better than 5 marches that will trade probably below average. So technology is already a big step. Now you may be saying there's some generic technologies here, and I mean, yes, but they're also going to be benefiting your troop. And these are very expensive, all these generic technologies. This is a 110-day upgrade. This was 110 days. So doing these upgrades takes a lot of time. Each of these are 100-day upgrades. So doing these is not the main thing most players will be doing. You'll be looking at Boudica arrows and these less, intense upgrades for your troops. Of course, I still recommend working on these. It's just these are more expensive and often neglected a little bit till the later game where you have more speed ups and more alliance technology and stuff like that. Another thing I like about focusing on one troop is you can actually choose a civilization to focus down on in KVK 1. A lot of people end up just doing one infantry, one cavalry, one archer march, KVK 1, and now they think they're the best. Here's the thing. There's civilizations and each civilization benefits each troop differently. Why would I use the Ottoman civilization, alright, if I'm using a cavalry and infantry march and an archer march in KVK 1? There's no point. And at that point, they're all going to be benefiting differently, and some troops are going to trade worse because you're not focusing on their civilization. KVK 1, If you have that one archer march, you're going to go with the Ottoman civilization, and that archer march is going to trade better than your 3 marches combined. Because you've focused down on that troop, you've got their technology, and now you've got a civilization to go with it. If you've gone with infantry, you probably go with the Vikings or the French, and then you're getting even more buffs. If you're going with cavalry, then you're probably going with Germany, and once again, you're getting even more buffs. So trying to focus on that one troop gives you even more buffs for the troop that you're using. You get a special unit for that troop, which you can focus on. And so that special unit is A, trading better than the normal unit would. B, you're more powerful in the field because you're getting other buffs. And C, you can focus down on one civilization that you know you want to use. Now, besides civilizations and technology, there's another thing I really like about focusing one troop. That's equipment. Each troop type actually has a different piece of, like, a material that matters most to them. And I don't see enough people talking about this. So if we go into my blacksmith, you can see here that archers need a lot of ebony. You can see my archers need ebony for almost every single piece of equipment. 30 ebony, 40 ebony, lots of ebony. I don't really need iron. I don't really need leather. So while I'm crafting ebony, I'll be able to passively gain the other resources I need. If I'm cavalry, I'm pretty sure you need more leather. So if I'm using cavalry, why would I be going for lots of ebony? I can focus down on crafting my leather so that while I'm crafting the leather, I can passively gain these other materials from events, killing barbarians, stuff like that. If I'm infantry, you need iron, so you can focus down on crafting iron while you passively gain ebony and leather. This allows you to make much, much better equipment. I didn't know which troop type I was focusing my first KVK. I was first doing infantry, then I was doing cavalry, then I was doing archers. I ended up finally deciding I was going to focus one troop, and I ended up getting my equipment in order. But before that, I was making evenly iron, wood, leather. So by the time KVK 1 came around, I didn't have enough materials to make a proper set of equipment for any troops. They were all just mismatched random pieces for different types of troops. It's not good. Focusing the one troop would have allowed me to have a full set of good equipment, possibly a full epic set if I had the materials, and possibly the blueprints if I had focused more on the specific events that needed it. Then I would have been more set to choose up better marches which trade better because I have more stats and better equipment. I assure you, my KVK 2, people were still doing the strategy of not focusing on one troop. At that point, I had completely gone all in on archers, and my Herman YSG was beating Alex YSGs because I had focused in on archer equipment. I had gone with my full revival archer set, I had talented as much as I can, and I was starting to work on my legendary equipment. So working in on that one troop type on equipment is going to help you trade a lot better than if you're working in on like 3 to 4 different troops and you're trying to make equipment for all those troops. It gets really bad early game. Late game, this is different. You have access to a lot more time, you've got more commanders that are a lot more powerful, and they can be mixed and matched as much as you want after you've made your first main troop. Now it's commander time. Commanders are probably the most important part of Rise of Kingdoms. You could have the best technology, the best equipment, as many troops as you want, and if you have trash commanders, you're going to lose without fail every single time. So if you're not focusing on one troop, what you're probably going to end up doing, which is what I was doing, I'm going to give you an example with epic commanders, and I think there's going to be a lot of players who can agree to this. You see that a lot of people are investing in like Sun Tzu, and so you go on max Sun Tzu. You think, yeah, okay, I've got max Sun Tzu. You don't really make equipment for him because you're going to make equipment for other troop types because you know you're going to go for a cavalry march. And then maybe you go on max buy bars. This is basically what I did. I went and I maxed buy bars, and then with buy bars, I went back and I went and also maxed myself Herman. So at that point, I had a max Sun Tzu with a 5511 Iluji Mundok. Then I had a max buy bars with a 5511 Pelagius, and then I went in and I maxed Herman. If you've done anything similar to that, then you'll know what I'm talking about when you go and duel someone with your max Sun Tzu and your random Iluji Mundok, someone who's focused in on their troop type, they become a master of that troop, and you get destroyed. I didn't win a single duel ever until I started to focus on one troop. Because I was doing this, I was focusing on all these random troops, I was having not full marches, I wasn't properly investing in commanders, I wasn't fully leveling up my Sun Tzu. My Sun Tzu still isn't maxed because I gave up on him. I didn't even max level my Sun Tzu, alright? I ended up taking up my Herman because I ended up focusing archers, and once I did that, I was much more set to fight other players. I began winning trades, I began actually winning battles in general, because I had swapped the way I was investing in commanders and I was focusing in on that one troop. I became a master of that troop so that I could win more. Now, when you're focusing on one troop, it doesn't mean you have to neglect every other commander in the game. There are still a few honorable mentions. Peacekeeping commanders are still very good, so like Kira, Belisarius, Loha, Boudica, not Prime. All these commanders are very, very strong still because you're going to use them for fighting barbarians. And also, some of them are okay really early game for the field, and I mean like really, really early. And then you can't neglect your gatherers either. So your Matilda, your Queen Tamara of Georgia, and your Joan of Arc, these commanders are definitely very powerful still, and definitely not something I would skip. So even if you're focusing on one troop, you should still know that there are some commanders that are very good for your overall, I guess, not combat related side of your account, and you should still be focusing on those. Now, if this video brought you a lot of value, and I know it will if you listen to the advice I gave you, please do consider dropping a subscription, because my goal currently is to help as many new players as I can make it the Season of Conquest and still be set up, because at the moment the meta is very rough for how Lilith is treating the newer players. So I do want to give you as much of an advantage as I can. If you want to see more content like mine where I bring out as much new player guides as I can, and I'm going to be making a playlist for it, please do consider subscribing and checking out my next video. I thank you for watching, and I do hope I see you in the next one.